Today, our esteemed guest, Mr. Brent Weaver from YouGurus.
Yay.
Brent, how you doing, man?
We learn a lot.
How you doing,
Thanks
Brent?
for having me on. This is awesome. I'm pumped.
Awesome to have you. Folks, we are going to be learning from Brent. He has got a presentation for us, but can I encourage you to interrupt his presentation, because we're going to do that, and ask questions. So our Cloudways team are across all of the socials, be it Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are watching this, and they are keeping an eye on the questions that you are asking of Brent. So please do share your questions. We will grab them, and we will be sharing those questions live. We're not going to warn Brent what they are, so if it's about his hair care products or anything else like that, I'm interested. So feel free to ask whatever that may be, and we will get those questions to Brent live and unedited. If you are watching the replay, please let us know if you're watching the replay by typing replay. And everybody, we would love to know what your biggest takeaway from this session is. So, mate, Brent, could you just introduce yourself? Give us the 60-second elevator pitch of who Brent is. Then we'll go to Jan, and then we'll finish with me.
Yeah, man. Lee and Jan, thanks again for having me here. So my name is Brent Weaver. I'm the CEO and founder of YouGurus. We are a business school for digital agencies. We do coaching, training, and some community programs to help agencies attract more leads, win higher value deals, and deliver and delight for their clients so they can achieve freedom in business and life.
It feels like you've never said that before.
That was the first time. Yeah.
Jan, how about you?
Yeah, I don't have that cool of an elevator pitch,
I want one
but
now.
I run WP Mastery and I host virtual summits in the WordPress space, namely the WP Agency Summit.
Which is coming up in a few months' time, I believe, as well.
Yeah, in October, yeah.
I didn't know if it was spoiler alert or not. Sorry. I couldn't remember. Hi, folks. I'm Lee. I am the host of the Agency Trailblazer podcast. And if you want to go back in time, episode number 74, back from 2017, Brent was on the show. So go ahead and check that out after this as well. The guy is consistent and has been consistently teaching awesome information and tactics to agencies all around the world for the last 8 years. And he doesn't look that old, does he? Phenomenal. So Brent, I believe you've got a presentation. So me and Yana are gonna go quiet in awe as you teach us all about overcoming your agency's dependency. On referrals. Over to you, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. This is gonna be awesome. So I've talked to a lot of agencies about marketing, getting more leads, all that good stuff. And one of the number one questions I ask agency owners is, how do you currently get leads? And I would say somewhere between 97% of the time and 99% of the time, agency owners tell me that they get their leads through referrals and word of mouth, which is pretty understandable for service businesses. However, that a lot of agencies are doing digital marketing, it always surprises me how many of them actually survive off of referrals and word of mouth instead of actual marketing systems. So we're going to talk about that today. So if you guys are kind of relying on referrals and word of mouth for all of your leads that you're getting for your business, definitely let us know in chat, ask questions as we're going through here. My goal is for you guys to have as much tactical information that you can implement in your business as soon as possible. Lee mentioned this. My name is Brent. Some of you might have heard me before, maybe not. I work with digital agency owners that are struggling to attract and win high-value, high-paying clients. Before YouGurus, for the last 8 years, we've been running coaching and training programs. But before that, I ran a digital agency called Hot Press Web for 13 years. And let's be honest, running an agency is kind of like riding a roller coaster. Like, it is exciting sometimes, but a lot of it is kind of scary and freaky. And we have some ups but we do have a lot of downs and loop-de-loos and kind of crazy situations that we go through. And one of the reasons I think that a lot of agencies struggle with this is because their clients, they don't know where the next client's coming from. And there's no consistency of how often they're getting clients. There's no consistency in the type of client that they're getting. And they're reinventing the wheel by and large. And the reason I know about this roller coaster ride is because I was on it. I pretty much cratered my agency after running it for 8 years. I showed up at Starbucks one day and the guy asked me what kind of coffee I wanted, and I was about to order a venti drip. And I realized that I didn't have enough money to pay for a venti drip. It's $3.13. I only had $3 in my bank account. I had a 14-person agency in downtown Denver. I had an office space. I had, huge payroll, 20 grand every time we ran payroll every 2 weeks. And I didn't have $3 to my name. Owed the IRS over $130,000. And that we can all agree, I think that's not a good situation to be in. And so one of my goals as somebody that's gone out there and coached thousands of agencies and done tons of training is to help people avoid that rock bottom situation. You should never have to put yourself in a situation where your business is literally cratering and you can't even afford to buy a cup of coffee. And so since then, I figured some things out. We're going to talk about some of those things today about how to generate more leads for your digital agency. But I've been on this mission to help agency owners achieve freedom in business and life. I was a really good web designer. I was a really good developer. I knew how to build really cool stuff on the internet, but for some reason, I couldn't figure out how to make money doing it. And the main reason was because I lacked fundamental business skills. Surprise, surprise, if you're going to run a business or an agency, you probably should actually focus more on your business skills than the technical chops. And when I started to do that, I started learning things about marketing, about sales, about fulfillment, about leadership, about delegating, about creating systems and processes, about strategy. And when I started doing that kind of stuff, that's really where our business started to double year over year for several years. And I'll talk about that story a little bit later on in today's session. And this question, I know you guys are engaging on a bunch of different live stream platforms. I don't know if Lee or Jan, if you guys have some answers to this question, but what you all are doing right now, running digital agencies, it's a hard business to run. Dealing with clients, right? Dealing with employees, dealing with team members, dealing with technology, dealing with WordPress, right? What are some of the hard challenges that you guys experience on this front?
For me, it was always the cash flow. So it was one of the biggest issues. Was it wasn't a problem getting the leads in, etc. It was more making sure that we organized the projects and the resources that we had so that we could bill at all the right times and still continue to onboard the new clients and make sure that people were paying on time so I could pay my staff. So I can remember years and years ago just staring at this bill of £40,000 worth of salaries I had to pay and all these invoices that weren't even going out of the door yet because we hadn't finished, and I was freaking out. So that's a big challenge for us back then.
Yeah, sounds very familiar. Most importantly for me, it was clients that dragged projects on and on, like these endless feedback loops that you sometimes have before you can finally send the final invoice and close the project. Those were the biggest challenges I had.
Yeah, those are good ones. So cash flow, I love that you bring that up, Lee, and Jan, clients dragging on projects. So those are both what I'd call lagging indicators, right? Cash flow is the result of a whole bunch of other stuff that happens earlier on in your business. Same thing with clients dragging on projects. Now, there are lots of awesome tactics to how to get projects to stay on schedule and on time and all this kind of stuff. But my thesis is that this stuff happens is way earlier, right? So I'll just tell you a little quick story about my agency. Every client that came in was like a different, unique snowflake. One day we'd get some medical manufacturing company. The next day we'd get a business-to-business software value-added reseller company. The next day I'd be working with a nonprofit organization. The next day we're working with the Department of Health in California. Like every client was wildly different. And we were going into these meetings and these proposals and acting like we actually knew how long these projects were going to take, or we actually, thought we knew, what the ins and outs of these different markets and industries were. And the reality is every time we got a new project, we were reinventing the wheel. We were having to redo, re-understand how these businesses and organizations worked. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the reasons that we push a lot of our clients to niche and to get clear on the market that they serve is so we can start to eliminate those variables, right? When your clients start to be a consistent type of client, we get some benefits like being able to productize our services. We get to be able to productize and systematize our sales processes. We start to create SOPs on the back end, and we can create some predictability in the business. So if you're having a lot of those issues downstream in the business, the first thing that we want to do with any of our clients is look way upstream. What's the market that we're serving? What's the strategy that we have there, and trying to figure that out. I'll talk a little bit about this today, but this is kind of our model at UGurus. This is how we think of your business. So you've got three major engines in your business. How you attract leads, everything starts there. The type of clients that you're getting into your business affects everything. It affects what your portfolio ends up being. It affects your ability to create systems and processes. It affects the quality of your next client. So everything kind of starts with attracting leads, winning deals, getting those higher value projects, and then delivering and delighting for your clients. Today, we're going to spend most of our time talking about funneling leads, getting leads, that market-based strategy with niching. So we definitely teach about all these things, but just the only thing you need to remember about this diagram is this is how I think of your business, right? That you have to have these three systems in order to scale your agency and have that freedom in business and life. So let's talk about some problems, because that's a good place to start. We've already mentioned this, but most agency owners are surviving on referrals and word of mouth, which is a problem. This is what I call hope marketing, where we sit by the phone and we hope that it's going to ring. When I talk to most agency owners and I say, hey, how many leads are you going to get next month? They're like, I don't know, right? And that's bad, right? We want to avoid surviving on referrals and word of mouth. Another challenge, and this has come up really big because of COVID and the pandemic, a lot of people have said, oh, good, I'm so glad I'm not niched in some vertical that's getting crushed right now. And the reality is, some of the people that are out there that are hyper niched in verticals that have been extraordinarily affected are having their best year ever.
Let me tell you about that then, mate. So I am hyper niched in the events industry with professional conference organizers. So it's very, very specific, and most of them are in the science sector. So you can't get as niche as that as far as I'm concerned. Well, you probably can. And events are being cancelled all around the world, and we have an online website product for these events. So you'd think that we'd be screwed right now. However, we are already an authority in that industry. We demonstrated through my own event how you could do an online event using the technology that we had. Thus, we are having our best year yet, simply because we've pivoted and we're now offering in the events industry a solution that meets their needs, allowing them all to continue to deliver their events online so that they're not missing out. So it does go to show that even in an industry where you would think you would be screwed because we're not allowed to meet together, and yet when you are an authority, when you have a niche, things still do work. Sorry, mate, I just wanted to highlight that as a big underline.
Yeah. You are an authority in that space. So what happens in times of crisis is we all look to the authorities, right? We all, business owners, government, schools, nonprofits, they are scrambling, and all of the attention goes to the authorities. So in a pandemic, right, in a crisis, maybe it's like, it's not too late to niche for sure, but the people that had authority, right, if you were niched but had no market authority, that's where you can get some, crushing results, because we have people that maybe worked with restaurants and they lost all their clients because they didn't have that authority, because all their restaurant clients looked to who the authority in the market was and they scrambled to find that, right? So we want to help you guys build that. A lot of agency owners are working way too hard. I think most of you should have one, maybe two marketing engines, two kind of combination of strategy and tactics that generate you leads. You shouldn't be, blogging, social mediaing, emailing, webinaring, right? There shouldn't be like a list of 30 things that you're doing, like an inch deep and a mile wide. You should have one or two proven marketing engines, and it's going to make you it's going to give you the freedom to work a lot less hard.
That is so contra to what you hear outside in the market. Sorry to interrupt, but from what I get bombarded with in terms of ads and marketing and stuff like that, you have to be everywhere where your clients are. So every platform, every channel, you have to be there. And you saying, focus on one thing, do that well, that just takes off so much pressure immediately. That's a really good advice. I really like that.
Yeah, and Jan, most agency owners, to have a successful business, let's say you've got a, $500,000 a year agency, and maybe you have 30 to 50 clients that you're doing work with on an ongoing basis. So maybe you need to sign 10 new clients in a year, maybe 15 if you're getting higher value work for them. You don't need to be everywhere to sign 15 clients. Right now, my business, You Gurus, right? We sign somewhere between 200 and 400 clients in a given year. It's the Cookie Monster is hungry. We do have to have some pretty scalable marketing engines to do that. But if you're attracting 10 to 20 clients a year, like you need one, maybe two marketing engines that you're executing on a consistent, repeatable basis, right? So we're gonna definitely talk about that a little bit today. So, and I mentioned this, being predictable, right? So having one or two marketing engines that you can put a little bit of energy into every single week, that's what creates predictability, right? Doing 50 random tactics and you have no idea which one's working, there's no predictability to that, right? So we'll definitely be talking about that here in a second. So here's the opportunity. You learn how to own your market. You learn how to focus on a market niche. You don't have to marry a niche. You can date a niche. You can build a friendship with a niche. I'm a big fan of owning the niche, right? Going all in, really declaring it yours, is you can have a full prospect pipeline. You can have people lined up waiting to work with you. One of my guys that's focused on e-commerce right now in Ireland, he booked over $200,000 in business in the last 30 days. He's booked out until January of next year. He's signing clients right now for January of 2021. That's a really interesting place to be at as a business owner, where you're really not stressed about cash flow, client pipeline, things like that. Now, I told him in our call, I said, hey, dude, you need to figure out how to scale up your team, right? Let's work on that next, right? The other thing is we want you to start signing raving fans. I love a good referral. Don't get me wrong. But what I love more is when I get a lead that says, hey, Brent, I've been following you for the last 5 years. I've listened to every one of your podcast episodes twice. I'm ready to move forward, right? We have 150 episodes, right? I'm like, you've spent over like 300 hours with me in your ears. Like, that's kind of weird, right? But that's a raving fan. That's a totally different relationship than a referral or a stalker, right? No. The difference, Lee, is they pay you, right? Maybe there's probably other differences. Right?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
So we want you to start signing some raving fans, and we want you to start working on more fun problems. Reinventing the wheel every time a client comes in is not actually a super exciting problem to solve. People tell me all the time, if I only worked on dentist websites the rest of my life, I would be miserable. It's like, all right, well, obviously, even if you're niche in that market, like that's not what your day looks like. What happens is you start to get, consistent projects that all kind of look and smell the same. And you realize, oh, wow, I can start to build some frameworks. I can start to build some SOPs. I can start to build some intellectual property. I can start to build some processes and systems, right? So I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. And what happens is you solve these certain problems that a lot of agencies are just resolving with every new client. And then you start to work on more interesting problems, right? On how to grow your team, how to scale the business, how to grow in your market, how to become the number one agency within your space, right? Those are more fun problems to me than, trying to relearn how to bake a pie every single month.
Can I highlight again, mate, what you've just said? Don't punch me. Again, what we've done in our space is that we were originally building event websites. We then built up the IP. So we were solving a fun problem. We then built up the IP to help automate and have visual builders, etc., so they could do a lot of things themselves, and we created a range of templates. And now it's a case of we are simply onboarding clients into something that we've already built. We're not having to, we're not reinventing the wheel every time. We're supporting them, and we're now working out new ideas and new products that we can deliver to them, as well as working on scaling. So everything that you have said is absolutely right, and I just wanted to highlight it because it happens in real life. This is not theory. So as you're listening to Brent, please do listen to him. He's not telling you theory. This is real. And carry on, mate. Sorry, preach.
Yeah, dude. This is I love it. I love having, usually I got hype up my own stories and stuff, but I got you two here. You're gonna come to all my other webinars I do. All right.
No worries.
We're gonna have some
Me
fun.
and Jan with the pom-poms. Come on.
Of course.
And that's scalable. That's scalable momentum. One of my guys, he does websites in this nonprofit sector, and his marketing engine was to go and do two talks a month with associations and organizations in this market. And I'll talk more about him later, but so he's going and giving these presentations, and he's getting 5 to 10 leads every presentation. He's getting about 10 to 20 quality leads a month for his business, and this is fueling his engine, right? His marketing engine is just two events per month. His content got so good that the people in his market started wanting him to pay him to come to their organizations. So now he's getting paid, $3 to $5K every time he goes and gives his marketing talk, because his content is so good within this market, right? That's a more fun problem to work on, is not only how are we delivering value to our clients, but also now we're monetizing and creating other income streams within a market. So your example, Lee, is spot on. And that's scalable momentum. When you have multiple income streams, when you're able to monetize more of your intellectual property in your business. So we've already talked about this question. I'm not going to dwell on this, but just something to think about for yourself is, why would scaling in a niche help your agency? We talked about this at a broad level. But, whether you guys are on the live stream, Twitter, whatever, throw out there, why would scaling in a niche specifically help your agency around the problems that maybe you're experiencing right now in your business? What would scaling in a niche have an immediate impact on your business right now?
It immediately clarifies who to reach out to when you want to get new leads, because you know exactly who you need to market to and who you're talking to. And it also helps you structure the project in a way that your ideal client understands it, because it's a difference when you're working with a big corporation rather than with a self-made brick and mortar business, for example. They have different processes, different ways of thinking, it just starts with signing off the projects, who they need to talk to, if they have a board they need to get the agreement from or not. And just all these details. If you serve everybody, then, as you said, Brent, you reinvent the wheel every time you onboard a new client. Whereas when you scale in a niche, you just have your same process for every client.
And Jan, when one of the questions I get asked all the time is, where do I find high value clients? And what you just keyed in on is so important, because before you can determine the where, identifying the who is such a more important question, right? Once you identify who you're going after, the where is it's super easy. It's so insanely easy to figure out where people hang out once we know who we're looking for. And so I couldn't have said it better, dude. It's figuring out that who part is critical. All right, so I'll just mention this client. This is a guy from our program, Uacademy Pro. No strategy, no niche. And the fun part about this is, now this client, Scott, they feel like they can replicate their success. So a lot of people ask me a question about, what if I go after a market and it doesn't work? Well, hey guys, digital agency owners for me is lucky 13. This is my 13th market. Right? There's a good chance that you're not going to marry the first niche that you go after. But the reality is this: once you understand how niching works, once you understand how scaling in a niche works, you're going to be able to repeat the success when you get challenges and adversity. One of my clients, right before COVID hit, decided to pivot their market. And this was their third market that they went after. And that's a scary thing. You pivot into a brand new market, and then a pandemic hits. And within, I guess, the last 4 months, they've gone from $0 per month in their niche to over $25,000 a month in their niche, because they knew how to do this, right? So what I'm teaching you today, don't try to get this right the first time. Just work the system and understand how it works so that you can repeat it and ultimately find the market that you're going to want to own. And maybe marry, maybe you put a ring on it one day, maybe not. Who knows? So I've got 5 keys to doing this. So these are the things that you're probably going to want to write down and take notes on. This is kind of my thesis for how owning a market works. We're going to cover 5 specific A words that are going to help you guys to own your market and think about your strategy. This is something that you can use really simply by just identifying the 5 A's on a piece of paper and just kind of check yourself when you're engaged in marketing. Am I hitting all 5 A's? It's also something that you can go really deep into each of the A's and get super kind of crazy with your tactics and strategies around these 5 A's. Cool. So we're ready to jump into the 5 A's to owning your market. Number 1 starts with audience. Find your high value audience that's easy to reach. I tell the story sometimes that when I was a kid, I had this pond near my house, and my friend wanted to go fishing. So we went down to the pond and we went fishing. First time I ever went fishing in my life. And we sat out there for hours and we didn't catch any fish. After literally 4 hours at this pond, walking around it, right? I was a little kid, had nothing else better to do with my time. I caught my first fish. It was amazing. It was epic. It was about 2 inches long, right? Hours and hours of fishing, 2-inch fish, okay? That's how most agency owners are fishing, right? They go to what's convenient for them, the pond down the street, and they fish there, and they're not catching anything, right? And then they declare, oh, niching sucks or whatever. Specific example, when we were first running our agency, I thought a great place to get clients was through the Small Business Administration's new business classes. I was like, man, every week they're running a class on new businesses, and every new business needs a website. So I went in there and I taught class after class after class. And all these people kept coming up to me and being like, hey, Brent, can you help me with the website? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how much is it going to cost? I was like, $10,000. They're like, what can you do for $300? And I'm like, no, right? But like, it started changing my beliefs. Like, week after week, I'm teaching these classes and I'm catching these 2-inch fishes. And I start to believe that nobody has money. But the pond that I'm fishing at is like the lowest value pond you could possibly imagine. It's literally a class for people that just filed their new business. Solopreneurs, people that literally they're learning how to open up a bank account. And I'm in there like trying to sell them websites, right? Doesn't really make sense. I'm not going to go much into numbers on this session. I promise you I'm not going to show many graphs like this. But here's some data from the U.S. Census Bureau from years ago, right? Talking about the amount of businesses in the United States and who kind of has the money. We're going to talk about constraints in targeting your market in a second. But if we just think about this idea of targeting businesses with employees versus non-employers, really basic constraint, okay? There's 28 million businesses or so in the United States. 23 million of them, the little squares there, are what they call non-employer businesses, right? They don't have employees. 80% of these businesses are $50,000 a year or less. So there's a massive amount of noise out there when it comes to people that literally don't have money. Like almost 20 million businesses out there, like literally aren't making any money, $50,000 a year or less to run their entire business and be the income for their life. We use one simple constraint. I'm going to target businesses with employees, which is only about 5 million of those in the United States, still a ton. And all of a sudden, the average bumps up to $3.6 million in annual turnover. Now, why does that matter? We use something called the 7% rule, which says that businesses and organizations spend about 7% of their gross revenue on marketing and advertising. That's out of everything that they make, they spend about 7% across all of their marketing and advertising. Some niches spend more, some niches spend less, right? But this is a general rule of thumb. Why is this important? Because businesses with 50K in annual revenue and businesses with 3.6 million in annual revenue have fundamentally different budgets for the services that you sell. And this changes the sales conversation 100%. If I'm pitching a business that's making 50K a year in annual revenue, and I go to them and pitch a $3,500 website, right? Like, or a $10,000 website, like literally I'm asking for a 10K website. I'm asking for somebody to spend 3 years of their marketing ad budget on one marketing asset. They're going to laugh me out of the room, right? And I'm going to start to take that as like an attack against me. The reality is this is just economics. Like they just can't afford a $10,000 investment. Take a business that's doing $3 million a year. They have $250,000 to spend on marketing and advertising. Like when I started to sell to clients that actually were bigger, more established businesses, the whole entire sales interaction process changed. I'd put out, $10K for a website and they're like, cool, we can get you a check on the way out, right? And you're like, what? And I'd say, hey, $25,000. Like, oh, cool, let's do another meeting. We got some other stakeholders and then we'll sign off on it, right? We started raising our prices to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Signing clients for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month retainers wasn't out of the question because I was a fraction of their overall marketing strategy. I wasn't the whole thing. So people treated better. I bet a lot of you here have had that client that is really small that ends up being like the nightmare client, right? They're asking for more stuff. They're more anal retentive. They're more demanding, right? And the reason is because like you're their one shot, you're the silver bullet, right? So when we're if you're all of your eggs are in one basket, like you're going to kind of be a little bit crazy about that basket. When you're working for a bigger company and you're one cog in the machine, it's not to say that you don't have to deliver value. It's just that you're one piece of the risk profile, right? You got to do a great job, but they're not going to be freaking out about every single thing that you're doing. They're going to be more focused on the results and the outcomes and looking to you as the expert, right? So we want to focus on those businesses that have budget. Revenue is an important constraint, but there's a lot of other constraints: industry, geography, job function, psychographics, things like that. A lot of people think of niches as verticals. That's one way to niche.
I do have a question. What's a psychographic? Just so I look like a complete dunce, but I don't know what a psychographic is.
Yeah, so like a psychographic would be like, I'm struggling to get leads, right? So if we looked at this as an industry and a psychographic, let's just those two things. So dentists struggling to get leads, right? Knowing those two things about your marketing strategy is going to actually help me. Like if you just told me those two things and I was a Facebook marketer, I could probably go to Facebook and start running traffic for you like in the next 30 minutes.
Cool.
Right.
So
I don't need
never
to know
heard of
much
the word
more about your
psychographic
strategy
before, so that I can use
it's
that.
like a
clever.
mindset or a belief set or something like that.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Another
Thanks,
could be like I'm a big fan of in horizontal markets, right? Like a psychographic could be like I'm struggling to build profitable funnels with ClickFunnels. Right? Like, and that's a really great horizontal. That's really a psychographic. It's a pain or a problem around a technology, right? It's not an industry or geography. It's a pain or problem around technology. You can make that your entire market. A friend of mine, Nick Kusmich, he helps people that are selling courses on Facebook for $2,000 or more. He helps coaches and trainers sell digital products on Facebook that are selling for $2,000 or more. That's his market. You know, he charges $10,000 a month for ad management, and that's his market, right? He cuts across a bunch of different industries, but it's a psychographic-based focused.
Thanks, man.
There's a lot of underserved and profitable niches out here, right? This is just to kind of prove this is just some of the A's, right? Like asbestos removal companies, asphalt, right? I mean, these are not sexy niches, but like they are niches that have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars per year. There's a lot of markets out there beyond just the typical restaurants, lawyers, doctors, dentists that everybody kind of thinks of. So you want to, like, when you go out there and start thinking of niching, really expand your horizons beyond just the markets that you interact with on a daily basis. Start thinking outside the box a little bit. Look at your interests. Look at areas that you know you can get them results. Look at areas that have money and are willing to spend it. One of my clients, they changed one word in their marketing. They were going after health and wellness coaches, and they changed that word from health and wellness coaches. They were attracting a lot of $1,000 clients to health and wellness influencers. They went from $3,000 clients to $60K clients, right? And they did that by finding that high-value audience that's easy to reach. So build awareness. That's number two, awareness. So number one was audience. Number two is going to be awareness. And we want to do that with existing market infrastructure. I give the example of the Beatles. Dude, we know the Beatles didn't play in their garage. That's not how they got famous. They got famous because they went and they gigged for over a year in every club, every venue that would have them in Manchester and Liverpool, right? They just gigged and gigged, sometimes playing 3 or 4 sets in a night, 3 or 4 shows in a night, 7 nights a week, right? They gigged, right? That's what you need to do is once you understand who your market is, figure out where they hang out and start gigging. Stop blogging on your own site. Stop, Facebooking on your own, fan page with, your 25 followers, 24 of which are your family, right? Like it's cool that mom sees what you're doing, but you got to go out there and gig in the market, right? Because it's going to give you that feedback, that validation. It's going to tap you into audiences that already exist. Do not build your own audience from day one. Like I'm hanging out with Lee and Jan today. I love these guys, but they got an audience, right? Like I'm this is easy for me, right? I'm showing up, I'm doing my song and dance. Like these guys built this huge audience of people that are my tribe, right? And I get to come and educate, and maybe some people want to learn more about what I do, right? This isn't like a magic trick. This is just like what you need to do, right? Go find your market, build awareness with existing market infrastructure, and do that in one-to-many channels. I hate cold calling. No interest in cold calling. I go out there and find blogs, stages, podcasts, associations, publishers, influencers. I hang out with my competitors. I advertise on Facebook, all that kind of stuff, and my clients do as well, right? So this is one of my clients. He focuses on, builds websites and marketing for MSP businesses. Doesn't even matter what those are, but guess what? There's a website called Smarter MSP. He blogs on there every single week. Every time he blogs, he gets a lead. Blog gets lead. Blog gets lead. Takes him 7 minutes to write a blog post because he records a video into his phone, sends it to his writer, his VA sends it to the publisher, publishes blog post, gets scheduled strategy call on his calendar. I mentioned this earlier, that client, Scott, they do 2 presentations a month. They're typically booked out 6 to 8 months into the future, right? So they're always thinking, what's my next stage? Not for next month, but for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months down the road. So every month they just show up, they do their song and dance, they get 5 to 10 high quality leads every time they talk. Now they're getting paid for their talks. That's a marketing engine. They're not, they finally, after 2 years in this niche, they started hosting their own webinars. After 2 years, they've been out there gigging like the Beatles. After 2 years, now they're hosting their own stuff. I'm a big fan of Facebook, right? Facebook's done the hard work, got 2 billion people together. We've spent in the last few years almost $700,000 on Facebook ads, which is a big number, right? Guess what? I've reached over 5.5 million people in my market, right? By leveraging their platform. Facebook has spent hundreds of billions of dollars creating an engine for me. I get to come in, put money in the meter, put my message in front of people. That client that I just shared with you guys, Nate, published 17 times this year. One article got him 7 strategy calls. And again, he spends maybe 7 minutes writing his articles by doing them into his phone and getting somebody else to do all the heavy lifting. Another one of my clients attends 3 events per year. He's the top developer to create custom apps for the Xero accounting platform. Super niched, goes to 3 Xero events a year. Each time he goes to one of these events, he gets 50 to 100 leads in 2 days. So he goes and he harvests his leads, gets 50 to 100 leads, and then he's good for the rest of the year. After 2 years of this, he's now hosting Xero's official custom app developer conference, where he is now like the top influencer in this market, runs his entire business from Malta, right? He's become the top person for Xero custom app development, which is super cool. So build awareness with existing market infrastructure. Think of yourselves as the Beatles, not the high school garage band. All right. We don't want high school garage bands. Abandon your personal Facebook page, abandon your own agency blog, go out there and write for stuff that already exists. Yeah, so this question came up. Does a £3.5 million business in the UK really spend $245,000 on marketing and advertising? I've worked with inside a lot of them, and in my experience, the answer is no. It varies, right? It's a rule of thumb. Some do, some don't. So my business, we do about $1.5 million per year. I spend about $300,000 a year on marketing for my business. So just as a personal example, I actually spend way more than 7% a year on marketing and advertising. Other people, right, maybe in the restaurant market spend a little bit less, but they spend a ton on their their location, right? It's location, right? So they might spend a little bit less on marketing, advertising, but more in other areas. It's a rule of thumb. Chances are that $3.5 million a year business, if you can go in there and prove your value, is going to spend more than the 100K business, right? We know that for sure. All right. I'm going to skip over a couple of slides. I want to make sure you guys get as much info as possible in this session, and also have time for questions from Jan and Lee. Number 3. So we've talked about audience. We talked about awareness. Now we're going to talk about attract. We don't attract clients by talking about stuff that you care about. I used to care a lot about content management systems and WordPress and Drupal and Business Catalyst and all these cool tools, right? And guess what? My clients didn't care, right? I've got a 6-year-old, and when I talk to him about adult stuff, like that he needs to be responsible and blah blah blah, like totally tunes out. I go up to him and whisper, "Hey, do you want to buy a Lego set this weekend?" Right? Oh my God, Dad's gonna buy me a Lego, right? Because he cares, he cares about that, right? So stop talking about stuff that you care about. Start talking about stuff that your clients care about. Whisper the right things in the right places, right? Dave McClure says customers don't care about your solution; they care about their problems. One of the exercises we have our clients do. I'll give you this worksheet later on today if you guys email me, but it's called the diary exercise. Go fill out a diary exercise for your client. Okay. Act like you're filling out a diary exercise for them, like a day in the life of. And trust me, they're not thinking about whatever you think about. They're not thinking about your services. They're not thinking about your business. Maybe like 0.01% of their day, they think about you. The other 99.99% of the day, they're thinking about other stuff. When you get clear on that, you get to start creating messaging that gets in your clients' heads. If you do need to talk about your stuff, always do it in the context of the problems in the market. So we call this the authority content grid. We take your top 3 services, the top 3 problems that exist in your market, and we make babies with them. We make really beautiful content babies, and we bring these things together. So example, service, web design, problem, get more leads. Everything that you talk about, anytime you're ever thinking about talking about web design or WordPress or whatever, you must always pass it through the get more leads lens. Everything is about get more leads. Here's how we leverage WordPress to get more leads. Here's how we leverage this plugin to get your business more leads. Here's how your website can affect lead generation. You never talk about your services without talking about the problem that they solve for your clients. And we can use this grid to create a huge mirage of myriad of headlines and topic ideas super fast. Anytime we are publishing content, it's always going to have these three components: a hook, right? Grab their attention; a build, create some tension; and then a payoff. What's the benefit? What's the call to action? What's the result? Whether you're doing a blog post, talk from a stage, a tweet, a Facebook video, a webinar, right? There always has to be a hook, build, payoff. If it's longer form content, there's going to be some nested loops here. Here's an example. One of my clients, we help property managers who use Arthur Online to build great brands, websites, and digital marketing. The headline here: Servon helped us double our property management business in 6 months. I'm not a property management business. Arthur Online, this stuff doesn't connect with me, but if you were a property management business using Arthur Online, this stuff's going to connect with you, okay? I mentioned earlier today, like, how does my client create blog posts in 7 minutes? He follows this framework. He just gets on a Zoom thing and he just walks through these steps, goes through headline ideas. Why is he credible to solve this problem? He talks about the problem the client has. He gives a story or example, goes into his solution, talks about the next net benefits, and then gives a call to action. Yeah, look, one of my clients, 100 attendees on his webinar, 7 audit bookings by the time he left, because he went to his market and he talked about stuff they care about. Attract your ideal clients by speaking their language. Whisper the right things in the right places. Number 4, build your authority. If you are waiting for somebody in your market to put a crown on you and tell you that you are so amazing and awesome and we'd love for you to come and share your content, you're going to be waiting a very long time. Strike that. I'm going to crown you. You are an authority. You are an expert. You have plenty of value to give your market. You are officially crowned. You are the king of your space. You are an authority. I promise you, you are awesome at what you do, and you need to build your own authority. You need to tell people why you're the authority in your market. You do that long enough, and people are going to start to say that you're the authority. They're going to refer to you as the authority, right? If you're waiting around for somebody to do it, you're going to be waiting a really long time. One of the ways we do that with our clients is we help them create proof points. These are my proof points. We have functional, social, economic, credentials, others. These are basically brag points. When we put these into a dashboard for you, every time you go and speak, write, create content, you're always going to include some proof points to tell your audience why you are a credible source to solve this problem. So that 4th A, authority. Every piece of content you have to anchor it with some kind of authority to why you matter for the market that you serve. I've got this worksheet and a couple of others. If you want this stuff, if you want our Own Your Market field guide, just shoot me an email, brent@ugurus.com. I shared with you guys some worksheets. We've got another, our 5th point here coming up here in a second. But if you want those templates and slides and all that kind of stuff, totally free for you guys. Love your support, brent@ugurus.com. Just shoot me an email and I'll send it over to you maybe a half an hour after we finish the session. Just say, hey, I was on the webinar and I want the field guide. Cool. How do we use proof points in the field? This is an article I wrote many years ago called Never Say WordPress When Selling a Web Design Project. Became one of the #1 articles, went #1 on Hacker News. We got over 10,000 leads from this article. Not 10,000 page views, 10,000 leads from one well-placed article in our market. Now, here's the deal. To get the one that went viral, we had to write like 20, right? Like it was like 20 well-placed articles on lots of different publishers. And if you would have asked me if this article was going to go viral ahead of time, I would have said, I have no idea. Probably not. I don't know. I don't even think I liked the headline. I think the headline idea came from my business part at the time. But here's the deal. It got us leads because we established ourselves as a credible authority. We went from unknown in our markets to a close to household name in our market within a couple of months within starting our business, right? Because we went out there, we gigged where people already were, and we established ourselves as the authority. We crowned ourselves by telling people why we mattered. If you go to our website, it's covered in success stories. If your website is not covered in success stories, you need to fix that. You need to go out there and talk to your clients, ask them what results that you got. You need to go and build partnerships, publish content, build alliances with awesome people, in your market, and you need to feature them on your website so that people can see that you're trusted in the market. One of my clients, Midstream Marketing, they work with registered financial advisors. I have no idea who advisor perspectives and wealth management are, but guess what? In this market, they matter a lot. They say a lot about this client, that they've been featured, and they get that third-party endorsement. Okay, that didn't happen by chance. We built a list of potential publishers. We reached out to them. We built partnerships, and we helped them build their authority. We didn't just like have this client blogging on their own website and hope that one day, these people were going to reach out to them. We said, hey, you're going to be an authority. Within 3 months, people were calling that client the go-to authority in that niche, and that's super cool. A couple of my clients saying that we're awesome. All right. Number 5, this is important. If you're going out there and you're creating content, doing advertising, things like that, number 5 is acquire leads with an appointment funnel. I've seen people go up and give presentations. I've had people on my podcast who I know need leads from my audience. And when I ask them at the end of the episode, hey, how can people learn more about you? How can people find out more information? And they're like, check out our website, right? It's like, what? Like, give people a compelling offer, give people something of value that's free that they can move to a next stage with you, and then have a dialed in and tight back end behind that. So we have this marketing engine system. This is a good slide to take a screenshot of. This pretty much walks through our entire marketing system and strategy call system with a fun little objection handling loop when you guys experience objections in your sales process. We build traffic with 1 or 2 or 3 traffic sources. We have those people go to a strategy call landing page that speaks to our audience pains and needs. We move them to a call scheduler, and then we move them into a sales process that's uniform across all of our clients. This is an example. If you guys want to go to this website, it's techpromarketing.com. It's one of my clients. Perfect example of what a strategy call funnel is, right? He's speaking to his client's problems. He's not talking about LinkedIn. He's not talking about websites and funnels. He's talking about stuff his clients care about. And what happens when they scroll down this page, they get an offer for a free strategy call to help their clients to get clear on their marketing. And this is what it looks like for his full-time salesperson. Walks in the morning, sees he's got a booked schedule of calls. He actually doesn't do his sales anymore. He has a salesperson that does his sales calls, right? This is actually my salesperson's calendar, but his salesperson's calendar looks the exact same. Another one of my clients, right? Coming in after the first of the year, everybody talks about not getting leads. Literally January, 1st comes in the office. He's got 4 new prospect leads right in the inbox. So we acquire leads with an appointment funnel on the back end. So let's recap. We get clear on our audience. We find awareness channels. We go out there and start gigging like the Beatles. We attract clients by talking about problems they care about, not problems that I care about. We crown ourselves and we claim that we are the authority, and we tell people why they should listen. And then we have a system on the back end with a clear and compelling offer for value and clear next steps for every piece of awareness that you put out there in the market. There should always be a path to conversation with every Facebook post, every Instagram post, every webinar that you do, workshop, podcast, everything. You should think about, how are these people going to get in touch with me? What's the path to conversation? Earlier in today, I talked about my agency experience. I talked about the roller coaster. I talked about the $3 in my bank account. Not cool stories. The reality was, when we figured out how to own our market, identify a market, gain traction in that market, become the authority in that market, we were able to scale our business and achieve freedom, right? Freedom for me is getting my time back and spending it with my kids, my family, and on my bike. That's it, right? I want to have plenty of money to do things I want to do. Freedom for everybody is different, right? So what's freedom for you? This system can be a path to that. For me, we got named the top 10 fastest growing companies in Colorado 2 years in a row. Cover story in the Denver Business Journal, top Denver web designer 5 years in a row. Ultimately, in 2012, our agency got acquired, right? We had a 7-figure agency, built a system, built recurring revenue, built all the good things. And an agency came along, actually 3 of them, and said, we want to buy you. And I was like, cool, I want to go and help people in my market, right? Agency owners, I want to help them to do the same things that I did. And so in 2012, we sold that business and have been on that mission ever since. So thought for you as we're wrapping up my talk portion is, what would your business look like if you owned your market? If you were clear on who you were targeting, you had 1 or 2 marketing engines that were just humming, where you knew that you could spend an hour a week on your marketing and get as many leads as you want, and they're uniform clients you can start building systems and processes around, chances are you're going to go from being stuck in the mud to finally having a good time running your agency. We do that at uGurus by helping you with this model: attract leads, win deals, deliver and delight for our clients. We hung out today. We talked about funneling leads. Hopefully this has inspired you. I'm pumped for questions. At the end of the day, you guys have a decision to make. Do you want to scale your business the smart way, or do you want to continue working super, super hard? If you guys want more information from me, feel free to shoot me that email, brent@ugurus.com. I'll get you that Own Your Market field guide. And if you're interested, we also run some agency growth sessions. I'll invest an hour of my time into your business to figure out how you can get unstuck from what you're dealing with right now, how to identify that market, how to get clear on those awareness channels, and all the good stuff that we talked about today. And that's just shoot me an email, brent@ugurus.com.
Awesome.
That was insane. Kudos.
That was fun, guys. This is good, right? So,
I can actually see the adrenaline rushing through your veins.
I love how sorry, Lee. I love how structured you are, Brent, with everything that you do. Like, it's so easy to follow the process that you've outlined with the 5 A's, even though implementing this stuff is overwhelming for most people if you don't have these clear processes and structures in place. So if everybody or anybody watching this wants to take away one thing, it is to this process rather than getting caught up in everything.
You've also had some feedback. We don't know who it is because they haven't filled in the form, but we can see you've blown somebody's mind.
Dude, that's what I came here to do. I literally, I don't care how many people reach out to me. All I want to know is how many people are going to give me a mind blown emoji, right? Like that's
yes, exactly. I'd love to share a couple of big takeaways that I've had from this. Number one is the whole idea of courting a niche and eventually getting married. Quite a lot of the time people are so paralyzed about not picking a niche that they just don't do it. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You will never niche. Whereas if you can, like you said, kind of court a few or eventually pick something and then go all in, which is pretty much how most people found their partner. You court a few people, eventually you work out the one that's going to work and you get married. So all good. So I kind of liked that as an image. Carry on.
Yeah, Lee. So, and here's the fun part, right? This is not true for relationships, but with a business, if you end up scaling up in a niche and you don't end up liking it, it's not like you've just built an asset. So we actually did this, right? We went after a market called educational consultants. Mm-hmm. An advisor of mine said, "Hey, there's this market called educational consultants. They are people that help high school kids get into college, right? And they have associations, and there's like all these businesses. The market size is like 5,000 to 10,000 of these consultants." He's like, they need websites, right? So I was like, cool. So I went and started having conversations with these people. Within 3 months, we had our first 5 clients. Within 6 months of starting, we had over 30 clients in the niche. Okay. And we were, within a year, we were scaling this business. It was multiple 6 figures in run rate. And it was a part of our agency. And one day my team brings me in and they were like, "Hey, we kind of hate working with these people." Right? Like, we just don't like them. Right. And I was like,
wow.
But this is fun. We're niching and scale. And finally, I'm not like reinventing the wheel. And they're like, "Yeah, but we don't actually like this market." And I thought about it and I was like, well, yeah, I'm not really passionate about it, but it's like making money. It's good. Right. And they were like, "Yeah, but if we keep doing this, we're all going to leave." And I was like, oh. So I put a post out there, an email to our list. And I said, "Hey, guess what? We're selling part of our agency. If you guys are interested in this, here, email me for the details." We ended up selling that business, that little business unit of, that niched part of our business with a separate brand for just under 6 figures, right?
Nice.
And that's like, so it's like, it's not like if you make the wrong choice, it's not like you end in like this, fire and brimstone, like you failed at niching, right? Like, you actually do have an asset that you can spin off and sell to somebody else.
And what you've described there is one of my favorite books, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, because no matter what decisions you make, something good will always come of it. There will be new opportunities that come as a result. And that you've given is such a great example of that. The other takeaway for me is a phrase I will now never forget, which is gig like the Beatles. I happen to be a massive Beatles fan, which obviously does help. But for me, I started with growing an audience in the agency space, and the only way I grew my agency in the my audience in the agency space was because I had to go and show up with other people. I had to go on other people's podcasts, go in other groups and add value, etc. Otherwise, starting from scratch, I mean, the podcast itself took months to grow, and we get multiple thousands of listeners now, which is incredible, but it took a very, very long time. And, so I had to consistently, and still do even to this day, just like you're doing, show up in other channels, show up where your audience is, where someone else has built up that huge audience. Many people discount their marketing efforts and say, oh, well, I can't because it's too much work to do to build up an audience. I don't have a Facebook group. I don't have X, Y, and Z. And yet you can show up with value and show up anywhere and add that value with regards to whichever group in the niche that you've chosen exists, podcast, YouTube channel, you name it, event, so on and so forth. They're my two biggest takeaways. I loved them.
That's awesome. I had when we first launched UGurus, dude, I had no blog post. Our website was a lead magnet for a free proposal template. And, we went out there and blogged on other people's websites. One of my clients had emailed me and was like, he's like, hopefully I'll have my website launched in it'll be about another month. And I was like, what are you working on? He's like, I got this blog and I got to put enough content on there so it doesn't seem like, I'm not like putting stuff out there. And I was like, why don't we just get rid of the blog page? Like that would solve this problem. If you got rid of the blog page, could you go live with your site today? And he was like, well, no, then I got my portfolio page. And I was like, well, let's get rid of that too, right? Let's get rid of the portfolio. Let's get rid of the blog. Let's go live with what you have right now. And let's go out there in the market and gig. And he was like, I can do that. I was like, yeah, you can do that. Right. So he went out there and got him published. Within 30 days, he's getting leads within his market.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a good question, Ben O'Leary. How much expertise in your chosen niche do you need upfront?
As long as you know, Ben, your craft, right? I mean, I think there's a kind of a permission to play. Like you do need to know what you like. If you're a web pro, if you're a digital marketer, right? You need to be good at what you do. I think those are kind of table stakes. But in terms of the market itself, you don't really need to know anything about the market. People in general are really generous. And we use this technique called CDIs, customer development interviews, which is code word for going out and talking to people. And you can actually kind of earn, a niche master's degree in about 30 days. And you can go out there and do, 10 or 20 CDIs. We have structures for these that we give to our clients, but basically go out there and talk to 20 or 30 people in your market. You have 20 half-hour-long conversations with people in your market, and you're going to start to be able to think and talk like them like very, very quickly. When we first went into the agency owner market, I put an email out and I said, hey, I want to talk to people in this market. I published my scheduler, right, for my personal calendar, and I booked 78 30-minute phone calls with web designers and web agency owners in 1 week. Now, I don't recommend this, right? It was brutal, long week. But by the end of that week, right, I'm like waking up in the middle of the night being like, I need more leads, right? Like I knew exactly what people were thinking about in my market with 1 week of intense customer development. So you can go out there, dude, and you can make, earn your master's degree in your market quickly by going out and having conversations with people in the niche. You're going to start to understand what they're experiencing, and then you're going to start to see how your services and your expertise can solve those problems really, really quickly.
I think as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying as well, one of the blockers or one of the things that will hold people back is they say, but I'm not passionate about X, Y, and Z niche. But what you've also demonstrated, again, with the education thing was that you can learn about that niche. You can show up because you have the talent to help that industry. You show up, you learn about the industry, obviously not booking 74 calls. That's ridiculous. But you can learn enough to become an expert in that industry, show up, add the value. And then if you realize it's something that's not going to work for you, you can can still change that decision. I feel like you want to show something on screen. I can see you drawing.
I'm doing it, man. I'm just doing it. We're gonna sketch a little bit, right?
Wow,
So
let's do a sketch. There we go.
These are the three things that you should be looking for, right? The first is, does the market have money, right? Do they have money, and are they willing to spend it?
Yeah.
You don't want like selling people religion for the first time is really, really hard work, right? Selling people that already selling people that already believe in something, right? Already believe in a religion, selling them a new religion is actually a lot easier, right? So if you go out there into a market and nobody, you do web design, but nobody actually spends money on websites, like that's actually a really bad thing. If you see all of these amazing, awesome websites, that's a really good thing. The thought that you shouldn't have is, oh, they don't need me. They already have a great person to do this, right? It's like, like they actually the more money, the more quality you see in a market, the more competition there is, the more people are pumping into your specific craft, right? So look for proof and examples of money. And you mentioned the word passion. And what I look for is interest, okay? What I look for is interest, because we can develop passion. When I first started riding a bike, it was really frustrating. I wasn't passionate about it. I was interested in it because I saw my older brother do it. And I was like, that looks like it's fun. But I didn't actually get passionate about it until I started to get results.
That's good.
So once I started to get results, then I got passionate, right? Then I started to get passionate, right? When I start to, when I'm making money at something that I'm interested in, I start to get traction. I start to get some reinforcement, like, hey, I can do this. I've got some oxygen in this idea, right? And then when we're making money on something and we're getting people results, we start to build up a reputation, right? Like if you're getting your clients results, the only thing that they can do is go to other cocktail parties and business networking things. And they're like, yo, we're an event company. We thought we were going to close our doors. We hired Lee Jackson and their team, and they saved our business, right? And then you're going to get tons of referrals with that reputation, right? And then that sweet spot in there is kind of that niche success, right? That's where we start to find when all three of these things are working together. You got money in the niche, you've got an interest, and you're getting them results. These things come together. See, in the educational consultant market, we were making money and we were getting them results. Honestly, I had no interest whatsoever. My interest rudimentarily was they need web design, which is not really an interest. Like I really had no interest in what they were doing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm afraid we have come into land. This is our time is up. Yeah. However,
we need to bring you back on though, Brent.
We do.
There's so many questions I want to grill you on.
Anytime.
Let's drag you back in, bro. Folks, to remember a couple of things. First of all, if you would like access to the worksheets in the presentation, brent@ugurus.com. Also, do visit ugurus.com for information as well. And also a little shout out for a retro podcast if you want to hear a little bit of Brent's journey for a little bit of background. Back in episode number 74, Brent came on. He was a little bit more high-pitched then. His voice hadn't broken. And he shared his it's shared his journey with us as well, so that's certainly worth checking out. Brent, thank you so much for your time. Jan, how can people connect with you?
Search for the WP Mastery Facebook group. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. agencytrailblazer.com, and of course for Brent, ugurus.com. We're going to sign off with the cheesy wave. Oh yes, he's nailed the cheesy wave.
That feels good. Feels good.
And the cool thing is I get to say when the broadcast ends, so you have to keep going.